St. Paul, the Fan.
Love's train has sailed to Egan. This is 9 to noon. Good morning. It's Paul Allen at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Nordo by my side. Max Fuller guides the great ship Love Covenant from the 651 Carpets Plus Studios at FM 100.3 KFAN. Minnesota Vikings General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah joins us about 15 minutes from now, about 9:17, after a press conference, season-closing press conference. The Vikings orchestrated yesterday with the aforementioned general manager and the head coach Kevin O'Connell. At 10:35 today, Minnesota Wild head coach John Hines. John Hines is part of the Timber Tech What's on Deck set list. The Wallstedt kid permitted 7 in his debut, and I was feeling a little bad for him too. And then I was listening to Henrik Lundqvist on the TNT postgame show, and I thought I felt bad for this goalie, but Lundqvist, the way he was laying things out, he felt terrible for him because of all the Wild injuries and just getting no help in front of him, and the learning points and the lessons that can come off of this. But it was difficult to watch last evening. We'll see what the head coach has to say when he joins at 10:35. I mean, it's Dallas. Dallas last night looked as good as anybody, man. And the civil servant went to texting me and Nordo that Middleton should slash Suter for a disease cross-check, and there was some cross-checking terrorism. We'll bring that up with the coach at 10:35. He is John Hines, and good morning.
There's a helpless feeling, good morning, with this hockey team right now, where 11 goals in the two, and I think, you know, as Wild fans, you're not only trying to get back into the playoff mix, you're trying to find signs of life despite all these injuries. So you can be pragmatic about it, and you can say, okay, we know that they're playing with an arm financially and an arm personnel-wise tied behind their back. But in the end, you get blown out of the building the other night like you did at home, and then you come down and insult to injury and Suter this and Norm Green that, and you're giving up 11 goals in 2 games to the Stars, all the while trying to find excitement in a debut of a kid like Wallstedt, where all the fanfare and the build-up and the promotion of what this kid can be, and you feel helpless right now because they are not finding ways to stay stable in the midst of these injuries, and kind of framing it up similarly to yesterday is you're gonna run into a point, and I know the team feels it, and you'll hear from the head coach next hour, but you're gonna get to a stage where by the time guys start getting healthy, you're going to start looking at the 4, 5, 6 teams that are in front of you that you need to leapfrog to get back into playoff position, and it's going to be the grind of all grinds. So, you know, Henrik Lundqvist, he's going to support his guys, right? He's going to support the netminders, but he was right in a lot of ways. Wallstedt didn't get a lot of help in his debut, and you try to pull that thing within respectability. You get the goal somewhat early from Boldy into the third, and the dam broke, and it was ugly last night. So they got to pick themselves up for Philly and Arizona starting tomorrow.
Head coaching immortality in the National Football League. Holy cow! Pete Carroll no longer the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks as of yesterday, and as of this morning, the reports are that Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots are going to end a near quarter quarter-century relationship. This also, I mean, go to college football with immortality. Now all of a sudden Nick Saban is leaving Alabama. So holy cow with those. I mean, Carroll, well, Belichick for sure, but Carroll and Belichick, a couple of HOF stepping off to the side. Damn.
Well, wasn't it? When was Pete Carroll there? Pete Carroll was at New England at one point, I think, earlier in his career, 90s,
Yeah.
I would assume.
He was here. He was with the Jets for sure.
Yeah, NFL, then back to college. Then he ran away from the whole situation with with Reggie Bush down at USC.
Yeah, I see the dots you're connecting here. Maybe it's like for Carroll to get to New England, he has to no longer be with Seattle.
Correct. So, he officially, Pete Carroll has officially run out of chewing gum,
right,
at least in the Pacific Northwest. So that was kind of shocking to me. And at one point, I think, it's usually how this works. I played that Belichick audio for you, and I'm under contract, and we're going to keep doing what we need to do.
Oh, Carroll,
I've answered this question 3 times.
Carroll was the head coach of the Patriots right before Belichick.
That's exactly
97, 8, and 9.
I thought that was the line there. So maybe there's a connection there. I saw something that there were rumors that he might still remain with the organization. Who knows? But despite being, maybe some would be shocked to know this, I think Pete Carroll might be the oldest coach in the league.
Yeah.
But he has brought that energy and just the way that he coaches the game and the way that he has brought those players in that program along in Seattle is really impressive. Now, for me, Saban just out of nowhere.
Right.
And the kind of the cool thing about it, the underrated part of it, is he's not going on a swan song tour. It's not, hey, look at me, in 2025 when my contract ends, I'm done. Mm-hmm. I think he probably just sent an email to the AD. Yeah, I'm out. I'm done.
Why are you out? Phil's out. He called.
So the modesty of how, a guy, of course, with his cachet retires was kind of shocking. But yeah, 3 big names in Carroll and Belichick and then Saban is pretty shocking. Now, who's going to coach? Maybe it's Brian Flores. Who's going to replace Belichick up in New England?
Well, the A topic for me off of all of this from a subterfuge standpoint, every National Football League head coaching job that opens adds an additional $2.7 million to Jim Harbaugh's contract. I mean, it's like the amount of openings matters when he sits down with President du jour at the University of Michigan and is like, well, I mean, I know this guy here and, I might talk to somebody here. And it's like, all right, what do you want? Add $6 million to it and an additional 3 years and we'll make all of this go away.
Well, and that was kind of the joke yesterday. Jim Harbaugh, natural fit for Seattle because the Seahawks are used to providing a respite for college coaches escaping NCAA violations.
Always.
So Jim Harbaugh, next coach of the Seattle Seahawks.
And our beloved Timberwolves last night, they took it on the metaphorical chin. But I watched almost that entire game. I mean, it was a very entertaining game. Wolves games this year are so much more entertaining than some days gone by. But it for my taste, man, it was one of their better efforts of the season. And I know they lost. I mean, it was an overtime loss at Boston, but down 2 starters. You fly in from Orlando day of game because of weather-related terrorism the night you plan to fly. The Seas are at full strength. Is Boston 17-0 at home?
Against the Wolves or this season in general?
I mean, I heard
because I'm pretty sure the Wolves have lost 17 straight.
Yeah.
They're 18-0 at home now. Yeah.
This year they're
still undefeated at the.
How about that?
Still, it's the Garden, correct? Why am I feeling stupid right now?
Yeah, TD Garden. But the Seas are at full strength. They're undefeated at home, and you're without Gobert, which really matters. You're without Conley, which matters, and you fight them right to the wire, man. And then it goes to overtime. I mean, Anthony Edwards, for basketball snobs, Anthony Edwards and Jaylen Brown had a really, really good give and take last evening because Jaylen. I mean, when Jalen's focused on defense, he's very difficult to get around. And he was taking it personally that Anthony Edwards was absolutely trying to steal the show last night. I thought Ant looked really, really good. Jason Tatum is he's one of the, if not the coolest people in basketball that nobody ever calls the coolest person in basketball.
I do, yeah. And the key for that is, what have we talked about specifically? As good as this Wolves defense has been, and that's I don't want to call it found money. I mean, it's part of the philosophy of this team. It's why things are working so well. But as that has risen to prominence, and statistically still very much the best, among the best defensive teams in the NBA, the stars are finding their way. And for him to take 14 free throws last night, and then, so he's going to go off. But you can't have Jaylen Brown also go off in the same game. 27 free throws between the two of them, 80 points in total in the game. So, and then, you were talking with Chris Finch yesterday, and you keyed in on Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels was, frankly, awful last night on the offensive side of the game. So
but his defense on Jason Tatum right at the end of regulation, you can't play any better. I mean, they isolate Tatum. He has to have maybe the best left hand in the game. I mean, LeBron has a really good left, so does Steph. A lot of people can go both ways, 100%, all right? But Tatum, man, when you isolate Jason Tatum to win a game, he wins it 7.5 out of 10 times. McDaniel's defense on him last night at the end of regulation was terrific. Now, that offensive part, whether it's ball getting sticky, as Finch says, and they're just not passing it to him, I'm not exactly sure what goes into that. But
the key is
Tatum's
for me,
left hand, man.
The Celtics, among the NBA's elite, like the Wolves belong in that matchup with the Celtics. That's unquestionable.
Yeah.
But I will say this is a couple of games in a row now, 2 of the last 3, where this team, in some ways, had wins and found ways to lose them with leads late in the game against the Mavs. And Kyrie Irving does his thing. And then last night, where you had nearly a double-digit lead, less than a handful of minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and you find a way then to ultimately allow it to go to overtime, and you just didn't have it. It stinks.
Yeah, it appeared to me nearing the end of the game, and certainly in overtime, they lost their legs. I mean, they lost their legs in overtime. There was a steal by Brown, and then a tear out by the Celtics, and Edwards was just kind of running half speed because he had just given everything he had. He was just dead out of gas, man. I was just very impressed with the fortitude of the Timberwolves last night. And finally, at some point of the radio show today, we will attempt to squeeze in some National Football League playoff who wins and why. But when we return, courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com, what's on deck? Minnesota Vikings General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah will join 9 to noon. Nordo is producing on site. Yeah, we are in Eagan, Minnesota at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, and I'm Paul Allen. Max Fuller is back at KFAN, and he has that cash thing.
I do indeed. The Fan and the Big Ten Conference want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword BILLS at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword BILLS. Enter it now at KFA.
On KFAN, The Fan.
So before learning of this Michael McDonald classic, keep forgetting, I believe during the year 2023 is the first time Kwesi Adofo-Mensah may have heard this Michael McDonald song. Did you know this was the inspiration for Regulator? And good morning.
Good morning. I'm embarrassed to say I have no idea. PA is this, a great friend of a lot of people here, and he sends me just, throwback classics on Wednesday morning that he thinks I love, and he sends me this one, and I'm like, oh my God, is that Regulator? So we've had a good run here going on, and obviously that music typically builds on the past and all that. Just like in football, we build on the past and try and make it a little better.
Well, Nordo, the producer, he grew up really appreciating and enjoying music of the '90s. Call it R&B music, call it whatever you want. So
I was babysat by MTV effectively. So
he's been producing 9 to Noon, close to a decade now, and my as you now know, I mean, my passion is deeply rooted in obscure R&B music. I mean, it's like calling games and doing radio, calling races, all that. Those are my jobs. And but when it's like chill time, I'll find live music, stuff like that, something called the Midnight Special. And so we'd start playing these songs 9 to noon, and Nordo would be like, "Oh wait, well that's Regulator." Oh, wait. Bill Withers, Grandma's Hands.
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
That was
Grandma's Hands, clapping church. Yeah.
Oh, Blandy.
Oh, that's what it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No diggity, no doubt. What are some others? Do you just top of the head that do you remember that you've heard?
There's a Steely Dan song that's a Kanye. What is it?
Oh, yeah. Your Eyes. Yeah, I know that one.
Is it Do It Again?
Yeah, that's a great
No,
one.
it is
Do you realize?
Kid Chameleon.
Yeah. Oh, Kid Charlemagne.
Kid Charlemagne.
Kid
There
Charlemagne,
we go.
Right.
Most of hip hop in the '90s finding ways to create beats prior to having the technology we have today. They used all those samples, and you
Yeah.
slow it down half a beat, it changes the mood.
Yeah.
And but that's some of the ones I have on the top of my head. I'm missing 20 that I would know otherwise.
Can
So,
I ask
sweet.
a question from the group chat?
Of course.
Favorite Boys II Men song?
How do I? That one.
Okay.
Say goodbye.
Motown Philly,
Back
nobody
again.
Nobody answered that. Nobody
says
answered that.
Motown Philly?
Nobody said
Motown Philly kicks ass.
The one that I tried to sing, what's it called? It's so hard
To say goodbye.
Yeah,
Say
hard to say
goodbye,
goodbye. So nobody says. So people always go right to the slow song.
It's that. Well, for me, it's One Sweet Day. Give me One Sweet Day with Mariah.
Yes,
That's an incredible song.
This is Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. He's general manager for the Minnesota Vikings, as maybe you have known or can tell. The common thread that I have with Kwesi is music, and it started from the first time we met, chatting about some music and stuff like that. So he mentioned, when we would do Wednesday shows here at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, I get here about 6:45 or 7, to start writing the show and just settle into the day. It's so peaceful here in the morning and everything. And as I would drive to get into the facility, I would see Kwesi's car. So if I see his car, I'm like, I'm going to roll the dice here to see what kind of mood Mr. GM is in. So I would send him a song saying, I know you appreciate music. What do you think of this? Yep. And then he would write back and say, holy cow, keep forgetting regular, blah, blah, blah. Then the next week I'd send him a song. Didn't write back for 3 days. All right, Kwesi's got a lot on his mind. We just lost. All right, I'm gonna lay off it a week, and then after that, it's I would send like "Feeling All Right" by Joe Cocker, "Happy Feelings" by Frankie Beverly, and
Unbelievable. I love it, man. I love it. I'm always, it's funny. No matter what's happening, honestly, it's kind of how I feel right now. When the season ends and it doesn't go the way you want it to go, there's that point of place where you just don't feel great about things. But then I wake up the next day optimistic. Everything in my life, how my family's been taught, is about getting up, trying harder, putting in the hard work, and you'll get where you want to go. And I know Kevin's the same way. So, I think I'm smiling right now. I'm pretty optimistic because I'm excited about the offseason and all the work we got to put in, and I'm excited to get to work.
Well, it's Vikings conversation here with the GM for sure momentarily, but how about Saturday, 3:30 in the afternoon? You have the Cleveland Browns, coached by Kevin Stefanski, and the Houston Texans, coached by DeMeco Ryans.
Yep.
Now, when Kwesi was in Cleveland, he was there when Kevin won Coach of the Year. And when Kwesi was in San Francisco, DeMeco Ryans was there. How are you going to handle this one?
I punish myself during the playoffs when we're not playing. I just work during it. That's my remedy. So I don't know that I'll probably have it on the background. A lot of great people, like you said. Andrew Berry's like a big bro to me. So that might be the tiebreaker, but I'll be happy either way what happens in that game.
Now, Bill Belichick, it's just been widely reported today, and I think, I don't know if the Patriots made it official, but Bill Belichick is, after nearly a quarter century, no longer going to be coaching the New England Patriots. A day after we learn, after also a zillion years and Super Bowls, Pete Carroll's not going to be coaching Seattle. I mean, that's football. This is football immortality. Stepping down or changing jobs or whatever. What do you think of all that?
The first thing that comes to mind is just an appreciation for the legends, the greats. Those guys, and I got to meet. This job is, crazy at times, but sometimes you just get to meet people you admire, shake his hand, and hey, Kwesi, and he says that, there's a 15-year-old inside of me that Bill Belichick just said my name. But I hope those guys know, and I'm sure they're not listening, but I hope they know that they don't just raise the people that they touch. They raise people all over the world. There was a lanky R&D analyst in San Francisco that read everything that he could about Bill Belichick, and just I have quotes on my board, and he used to have about half of the quotes. Just try to learn when you're trying to learn to fly. Go watch a bird, right? Go watch the people who are doing it right.
Right.
So I've taken a lot from their approach, how they do things, and so it's just been great to watch him. And then obviously Kevin has a relationship with him, so that's been cool to see up close. And there's no luck involved when somebody is that great. And the second you meet him, you know exactly why.
Great business question because of the level of respect Brian Flores has with that organization. With this move, do you think they'll come after Brian?
I try not to conjecture. I know what we feel about Brian. I think. Yeah. People saw the results. I think he did an amazing job this season, just being innovative, adjusting to the personnel, injuries, different things. He brings a mentality. He brings a personnel background. He's as talented as anybody you'll meet. So I would answer that question to anybody who has an opening. Yeah. But I can't conjecture what they're.
Is Flores from what you know or what you've seen? Because I mean, you've seen a lot. And also at a very high level with those Niners teams and getting to the Super Bowl and everything. Is Flores to defense or close to defense what Kyle Shanahan is to offense?
I find a lot of similarities between him, Kyle, Kevin. I call them all systems thinkers. They don't necessarily see plays or cover two. They just think about it theoretically and how everything's interconnected within football. And if I do this, then that means this and this. And they just they don't think first order, they think second and third order. And so that is in common with Kyle. And obviously I saw that the second I met Kevin. And then obviously Brian has that as well. And a lot of other coaches I have it named as well.
Yeah, no, I got you on that. Now, Kwesi, you said something yesterday right out of the gate. I mean, you and Kevin, like right when that thing started yesterday, paraphrasing, Kevin's like, we were 2-6 at home, and the fans and blah blah blah, and it was just very vain opening. Then he started talking about his maturity as a coach and stuff, and the self-awareness with the press conference yesterday. Personally speaking, I thought was terrific. And the first thing that you kind of said was like, yeah, we had adversity, and realistically speaking, 4 quarterbacks, the whole thing, man, a lot of adversity. And then paraphrasing, you segued into, but it's my job to construct rosters that can handle all forms of adversity. And then I was thinking, okay, I mean, those guys, of course you're right. But those guys last year kept so many games so close despite circumstances and adversity. So the roster, from a certain standpoint, with a youthful vigor to it, kind of did what you said needs to be done. But how do you handle the drops and the turnovers? Yeah. And you see what I'm saying? You get your deep roster players playing 60, 70, 75 plays a game, and look at this, here we go. And then a turnover, unprecedented amount of turnovers.
Yeah, that obviously I think, and like you said, I think I didn't want to say that to mean that we weren't close, because I think we showed a lot this season. But how do you get over the edge? How do you get that one score? How do you not turn the ball over? And those are all things when I talk about second and order thinkers that Kevin and Brian are. I know that we'll be able to do that. It's not those answers aren't always simple. Some of it can be personnel related, but some of it can be why are you in those situations that might lead to those turnovers. Yeah. So obviously we showed a lot, but we have a high standard, and to be special in this league, you got to be special. You got to hold yourself to a special standard, and so that's my job ultimately, and that's what I pursue to do.
You correct me if I'm wrong here, but when talking about Cousins yesterday, and you were pressed most on that, do you feel confident the team and Cousins will get?
I know we've had a lot of good dialogue, and I know that when two people want to make something work, that's normally a good thing. I've just been in this business long enough to never be certain of anything. I just don't think that's how I'm wired, but I look forward to those conversations. We speak, we communicate with a lot of respect, admiration, appreciation for each other. And I think those are normally good conditions for an agreement, but we'll cross that bridge when it's time.
Wait, what is it like negotiating high-end deals? Yep. I mean, it's just like, it's something that most people never will do. Yeah. And like dealing with agents, what's that like?
Yeah. Agents, actually, I get along great with agents just because, from my old life, when I was a trader, we had an OTC market. So a lot of the deals we did were with brokers, and agents are essentially brokers between players and clubs. And so that dynamic of, hey, we want to be a partner. Like an agent and a team are kind of partners in a sense, right? We want to do lots of deals together. It's not just about this player. So how do we have this relationship that obviously you can do right by your client, but also not run me over, so I'm not the one in the chair doing that deal with you in 10 years. So that dynamic is something that I'm familiar with. But, again, I try and be transparent, honest. I try and do it with integrity, so they know when they pick up the phone that when I say, hey, this is my line, that is my line. But also, I'm also creative and trying to find solutions, because I do really believe contracts are just a canvas to find solutions for people's needs. That's at the end of the day, your needs might be short term, might be long term. So we can come together and figure that out and put our heads together. We got Rob Brzezinski in the lab and Emily and all these great people to help us with those solutions.
Not putting you in completely in a certified athletic trainer's shoes, but is Cousins' Achilles healing like markedly more quickly than anybody expected?
It's unbelievable. He walked by me the other day, and I'm so used to, I'm in my 40s now, but in my mid 30s, that's when all your friends start tearing Achilles playing weekend basketball. So I just remember all them on their carts for months, and then this guy walks by me, and I asked him the other day, I'm like, he's like, the science is just better, but he also said Akers is way ahead. He's like, you think I'm ahead. Akers is months, plural, ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And he's already done it once before. So it's incredible science, and obviously great credit to our team doctors and all the resources we have here.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Cam Akers was a sneaky underrated loss to this team this year. It's like, where's Davenport? Too bad for Cousins. We're going through all these quarterbacks. Justin for half the season. I mean, Cam was smooth. Yeah. I'd seen him in his career before, but never really, obviously called his games full time or seen him at practice. He's just smooth with the way he does things, and we kind of missed that a little bit.
Yeah, we did. And I think not just that, we talk about skill sets a lot, and he's great in pass protection, and he's a smooth runner, and he's got good ability in the pass game. But I don't know if you remember that scramble Josh had against Atlanta, and that block he threw against the defensive tackle.
By the goal line?
He's probably still feeling that block. And those moments, are kind of transcend the player. Those moments impact his teammates, and I think of those things, and those are parts of culture that you want. And we're super appreciative of Cam, and we're excited to see him rehab.
Hey, Kwesi, with the process and with the way you do things, you and your group, you and the staff and everything, in if any, what ways does your process evolve when it comes to free agents and rookies, and maybe even your own players that you're thinking about letting go somewhere else or bring back?
Certainly. And you should be learning every season, right? Experience is the best teacher. So, every time free agency comes or draft comes, we meet, we talk about what could we have done better? What did we really like about it? And then we just kind of keep iterating and go forward. I know free agency is such that I think people a lot of times can be focused on their first targets. And then once that happens, like Mike Tyson, we ever got a plan to get punched in the face. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you do on that next thing? And so, that's, I think, we need to get better. I think everybody needs to get better, obviously, at that, and just really being detailed in, okay, plan A plays plan B, plan Z, and be ready for that and connected in that, and just communicating that a little bit better.
Are you familiar with, I believe he's a Canadian singer-songwriter, Daniel Caesar?
Man, should I be embarrassed that I'm not?
No, not really. Okay. What's that Daniel Caesar song we used to...
Is it Love Galore?
Yeah, no, that's SZA. I think SZA's Love Galore. But Daniel Caesar, there are three words when it comes to, what do you look for when it comes to free agents or draft picks, and he had a song called We Find Love. And we find love. That's what we do. We go out and we find love. Yes. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, general manager for the Minnesota Vikings on the 9 to Noon show. What, during the season, Kwesi, what do you see with the way coaches work during the season where you're like, that's cool and effective, and I'd like to learn more about that?
Yeah, I think I've been fascinated by the play call sheet. And so obviously I'm close with Kevin. I'm always in there, and I see the dynamic between him, Grant, and Chris O'Hara and Angelico and all the guys on his staff. And so they have all their meetings, and they get a lot of information, which is very similar to our draft meetings and free agent meetings, right? Mm-hmm. But then the people don't realize the play call sheet isn't just a sheet. It symbolizes a process. How did we get here? And so when Kevin will talk about a play, it's not just this play is here because we talked about it Wednesday. There is a Z level, incredible level of rigor and detail that why that play is in that situation on the play card, why it's being called, what situation, how it could go wrong. I mean, the level of care they put into the one line in that play card, that to me symbolizes what every decision should be. And it's not that we haven't been to that level, but that last step of we have all this information. How do we, just that at that last minute, kind of symbolized process the way they have a play call sheet. Now, I don't have a play call sheet for the draft, but symbolically something that at that last hour, I think is something I kind of took and admired from them. And then just the time, we work pretty hard here, I would say. But, coaches, I mean, this is time away from their families. It's a lot of, and just the rigor they put into it. He's always got a smile on his face. His staff's got a smile on their face. You wouldn't know they were tired. So when they get out of here, I dap them up and tell them, please go somewhere warm and enjoy yourself, because just an appreciation for me for all they do for this organization.
And take that to the players. And I'm glad you said that, because I've talked about this rather extensively this week on this 9 to noon radio show. Is the team finished 7-10. There was a 3% chance to make the postseason into the Lions game. Had a lot of things that had to happen. After the game in the locker room, it was an unbelievably emotional locker room.
Yeah.
I mean, Harrison Smith was as emotional as just, not worried, but just, those guys loved each other. Nick Mullins, man, he wanted to do better and, did the best he could. And then Dalton Reisner's like, I love it here. This place changed nobody wanted me, and I've got bad personal situations now, and I love it here. It just what a tightly knit group this was, right?
I think that's just a credit to Kevin and his staff and the culture of the building, and then also our collaboration. We try and build people that reflect what we want in our culture. And important in our culture is personal relationships, people treating people the right way, accountability. So when you see a Nick Mullins come in and take the onus on him, that's how Kevin and I are. We point the finger inward and always try and figure out how can we be better for everybody. So you're just going to see a connected team, because that's the culture that Kevin has, and that's the culture that we want in this building.
So if I were to rattle off some songs that I think
okay,
and tie them to players or seasons,
yes.
Let's see how quickly you can name the artist.
Let's
Ready? I mean, it was 7-10, but Not Gonna Cry. Okay. This group is a family affair.
Mary J. Blige.
There we go. Okay. Got it after two.
Okay, that was a two.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can sing. Not gonna cry. Is that
my sister's never gonna let me. My sister's like the biggest Mary J. Blige fan of all time. She's never gonna let me live that one down.
Yeah, and
we could edit that out.
Somebody makes a mistake, they can be Mr. Wrong.
It was "Get You" by Daniel Caesar, by the way.
Get You, that's what it was.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody makes a mistake, see, this is the beauty of Mary J. Blige songs, because you can have a Mr. Wrong, but also I Can Love You, which is another Mary J. Blige song. All right, time for a couple more with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, general manager for the Minnesota Vikings. The process of getting the roster younger while also securing a bunch of cash for free agency. I mean, we've been looking for nickels and dimes between couch cushions for free agency for quite some time, and I understand the window and gearing things over the years, trying to make a run or keep a window open. But correct me if I'm wrong here. I think your vision's a little bigger than that. You want to get younger while having free agency money, and of course hitting on picks.
Yes, that's what it takes. It's, as I've said a lot of times, it's this sport, the oblong ball, all the different things can happen. You can't plan to win 1 year. You need to have 5 legit cracks at it to win 1, 2, however many you get. Talk about Bill Belichick. How many times was he in the AFC Championship game?
Right.
How many times were they in the Super Bowl, and how many times did they win? There's a 50% attrition rate at each one of those levels, right? And and you obviously, it takes great players, great planning, a little luck, but if you put yourself in the tournament, my wife keeps telling me to stop saying the tournament. I'm not a basketball player anymore, but
everybody says the tournament this time of the year.
Okay, we're good.
All around the league.
And then, so you get yourself in the tournament enough times, and good things should happen.
Yeah, you know what, Emer? There are buzzwords and buzz phrases that pop up every year in the NFL. And one person hears it in the copycat league, and everybody goes with it. Yep. And the last couple of years, it's been low and high red. It's low and high red, or D&D.
D&D.
I got some D&D in here too, with the down and distance. But you definitely don't want to drip too hard, specifically when you're close friends playing freestyle. Okay, now from what you know at this stage, and it's probably a zero answer here, but I mean, I know you know more than us with the draft, and it's not time to deep dive a draft. But from what you know, does this seem to be a uniquely deep quarterbacks draft?
I try not to talk about that just because it's at the end of the day, that is a position that is incredibly important, but pretty hard. It's uncertain. There's a lot of different variables that you have to go into. What style of play are they doing? And also, these players are young players. We see them at this point in their career, probably hour 1,000 into their 10,000 hours. So you're trying to predict what that's going to look like down the line, down the road. But from some of our initial work we've done, since we've been here, we do like this class of quarterbacks. But again, there's been times where people said there weren't. I want to say, was that 2017, people didn't think it was a great draft, and all of a sudden Watson and Mahomes, and you look up. So, I don't know that I want to stamp myself as the prognosticator of how depth this class is, but there's a lot of good prospects.
Yeah, see, the reason I asked is because, before the pandemic, we're at the Combine 2020, and all we started to hear was this is going to be the deepest wide receiver draft in history of the NFL. And being an old schooler, I'm like, all right, I got to give him 25 games before I can look at that and say that. Okay, that take was pretty darn good.
Yep.
From JJ, and then all the way back, Darnell Mooney can play, and Gabe Davis and stuff like that. And then last year we started hearing a fair amount of it about the tight ends. And then you watch Kincaid, and you watch even Tucker Kraft for Luke Musgrave and Laporta and stuff like that. I'm like, damn. I mean, that's pretty prescient to see that in January and February, and now we watch it happen. We're starting to hear that a little bit in our world with the quarterbacks, and that's really the reason that I brought it up. How about the season Josh Metellus just had? Tripling the snaps and playing inside corner, outside corner, all linebacker, safeties. Man, I adore Josh.
Love Josh. Somebody that when we got here, I didn't really know much about him, and so you study him, and he's got some coverage ability. He plays with range, but I don't know. And then obviously fast forward, you get somebody like Flo who doesn't necessarily see positions. He sees skill sets and how do they fit on the field. That was a perfect marriage. And then you talk about the character of the person. His story is the story that we want to have on this team, where I was on a practice squad. I kept grinding. He is so intentional with his preparation. Right now, I guarantee you he's got a list of things he needs to work on, how exactly he's going to approach it. And I just love being around people like that, because that's what success looks like, and it holds me to a standard that I need to be held to. We're excited about Josh being around here for a few more years.
What about Ivan Pace Jr.? I mean, undrafted, and I don't know if you guys expected him to play that much this year, but he kind of had to after the injuries. And what do you think the future looks like for him off a wonderful, wonderful debut?
Yeah, that was incredible. He's when you watch his college film, we talk a lot about beating blocks. Well, he does it a little differently than other people do it. And I give a great credit to our coaching staff and our scouts for seeing that, because not everybody can appreciate when something looks different, but still getting the job done. And so they identified them, and, obviously we brought him in here, and you just kept seeing on film and in practice at training camp and different things, how impactful he was. And, the sky is the limit for him as a player. He needs to keep growing, understand how defenses are trying to attack him, us as a defense, and grow from there. But you love the person. You love the mentality. He has an alpha mentality, a middle backer mentality when he's in there. Pretty quiet guy off the field, but on the field, he's got a lot of alpha to him. So really excited about him.
And lastly, I mean, obviously as a general manager, you have to see the bigger picture. And when things go poorly, potentially it could be on me. Hopefully, you're not like, hey, because you have the lowdown on everything, that hopefully the positive stuff makes you say, whoa, what artist is that? Whoa, lowdown on me. The bigger picture, do we have a problem?
Whoa, I think Black Rob. No.
Okay, here's your hint. You referenced this artist to one of your draft picks 2 years ago, when you put your arm around him saying, oh, you're listening to, okay, ready? Lil Bay.
Oh, Lil Baby. My bad.
He was doing awesome while,
no,
right?
Yeah, no. You know what? You said whoa, and so
there are
for people from my age.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, a couple in here I can't use.
That Black Rob song is awesome.
You hear whoa in my age group, you think Black Rob immediately.
Well, copyright Lil Baby, right on. And yes, indeed, thank you very much for the conversation. And I know you say to coaches and players, go get some sun, go get some sand, go get some R&R. Likewise for you too.
In due time, maybe I'll get some time, but we got other things to do right now, so we're excited to get to work.
Good seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, Sam Newton, Jeff Anderson, Vikings Public Relations. Thank you guys too. 9 to noon continues after this.
KFAN, The Fan.
Yo, fellas, y'all ready to do this? Yeah, what's up, guys? What's up, man? Boys, I'm making effect. Yeah, it's about time. Yo, let's rip this up. Boys,
think we got some Vikes bites right here, orchestrated by Nordo and provided by
Motown Egan, bringing you Vikes Bites, and it's always presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Elite meat. Check them out. Clearwater, Minnesota born, and now they're all over the place. Regenerative agriculture, but the meat tastes delicious, and you can learn more, Thousand Hills lifetimegrazed.com. And we just heard from the general manager, but he was up on stage with the head coach, Kevin O'Connell, yesterday. And I just wanted to grab a few bits of audio that we could ponder, react to, not react to and just listen. But Kevin O'Connell, speaking to the media yesterday, one clip I thought was interesting was him talking about how adversity either displayed to him, unveiled to him, but ultimately what adversity showed him about his role as head coach of the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I know. For me personally, part of leadership is, leading from the front in those times of adversity, and even sometimes, when things get hard, you need to be at your best for your team. And I think the players and the coaches, that's what they look for in me. And I'd like to think that through that adversity, I was able to do that enough to know that there's a lot of things that I still need to improve on, still need to grow from, evaluate every aspect of not only my own personal process of how I go about the preparation of our football team, but then the ebbs and flows of the season, and making sure that I'm doing everything possible with the experience that I've gained to continue to put our team in the best possible situations, to feel like when they hit the field for 3.5 hours on Sunday that they're at their absolute best because of how we prepared.
And that really was the key and you've heard that mantra for him, being at your best when best is required, PA. Yep. And, the situation as it existed in 2022, there was a lack of stability, but it was flying by the seat of your pants and winning these games and historic comebacks and miracles at goal lines and fumbles and this and everything bouncing their way. If anything, and the awful part about it as Vikings fans, and our frustration as wild card weekend's about to unfold and our favorite teams on the outside looking in,
kept taking L's,
is that Kevin O'Connell had to learn these things. And we had to watch these things come to fruition on the negative side. And it's almost like paying penance in some ways for what now Kevin O'Connell can use that lived experience and maybe be on the good side of moving forward. And that brings me to my second clip that I wanted to play for you, because a big aspect of this is the development of quarterbacks not named Kirk Cousins. And you heard about the play card from Kwesi and how it tells a story and why things happen in certain spots and the scheme of the offense for better and for worse in some spots. But in the end, this offense, is complicated as it can be at times, learning through adversity. The idea of what happens if you take your A player, your A field general out of the mix, how do we develop that? How do we go to the what's next plan on the fly in the season? And here's KOC talking about that mindset moving forward, developing backup QBs in light of how things transpired in 2023.
Yeah, I think, you only learned kind of through the second half of the season, just the ebbs and flows of playing multiple guys and having to bring somebody into your organization on, really on a short week, and they end up leading you to a victory, and just taking the whole inventory of it. I'm a huge fan of quarterback development in itself. I think Kirk Cousins has, been a guy that from the time I coached him previously with another team to coming here excited about the opportunity to really build and grow, side by side with Kirk, building what we believe to be, a chance to have a special offense. I do think it's important, though, that we, as coaches and working, with Kwesi, and we make sure we solidify a winning path in that room that revolves around your starter. And most teams in this league are going to be hard pressed, and there's been a lot of teams that have been having to answer that question this year around the NFL. It was a pretty unique year as far as backups, and in some cases playing 2 or 3 or 4 guys. Are you equipped? What's your roster around that player look like? How do you need to maybe adjust the way you try to play the game and win with a complementary style differently than maybe you originally intended? But I do think it's something we've got to pour into.
There's a common thread there that was started by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah at the press conference, amplified 9 to noon today, when, he right out of the gate just neutralized a fair amount of things that may be coming at him when he said there was a lot of adversity. It's my job to construct a roster that can handle all forms of adversity. And that's an intimation that it wasn't done and it needs to be done. Then O'Connell, when he was talking about this and about the injuries and everything during the season, I thought it was quite open and vulnerable when he was like, I still have so much on which to improve and grow. And I need to focus on that too, growing as a coach in this job. And that's not hollow. I mean, that's a look in the mirror moment that is true. And it plays into all of this with raising quarterbacks on the fly and handling deep depth on the rosters and having them play a bunch of snaps and everything is those two guys care. And they care not only, for the team and for themselves, but for the fans. So I think that all ties together.
It certainly does. Now, as you're watching this, if you were watching the press conference, Vikings.com, or maybe you heard it in its entirety on the Fan, you saw that the head coach, he was ready to take even just like a nice 8-hour nap after this season. And again, playing into the common theme of this conversation in 2023 has been injuries. Don't forget about those turnovers, but injuries in a topic for sure. Evaluating your starting 11. Ever since they came in, it's about 11 personnel. It's what Josh Oliver could do in this offense, maybe providing some beef up front and some blocking for the run game, analyzing what you have. And here's an answer from KOC when kind of pressed on, how do you know what you got with this offense? How do you know what you have with this scheme and the talent? And how can you be at your best when you had so few reps where all 11 that were preferred were actually on the field?
Yeah, it's funny because even when you look back on, sequences and different parts of the year where you felt very strongly about what we were doing, specifically kind of that stretch there, San Francisco into our trip up to Lambeau Field, and JJ wasn't out there for that game, or early on in the year where we were, pretty effective moving the football when we did have at least 10 of the original 11 out there that we thought we would have, and then the turnover thing caused us to hit some speed bumps there. So I think it's a comprehensive look at what we've done really over 2 years. I think our offense has grown. I think we found some tools and some things to help our best players thrive when we can have them out there as a full group. But ultimately, nobody's going to ever feel sorry for anybody in this league when you don't have a premier player at the receiver position, or you're going to have 8, 9, whatever combinations of offensive linemen out there throughout the year. A guy like TJ going down when he did, the type of season he was having, and then clearly the quarterback adversity that we did have. Nobody's going to feel sorry for that. My job is to make sure we're consistently doing what we need to do week in and week out to win football games. And it was definitely a process for us this year, and specifically for me.
And so that's Kevin O'Connell, and those are just a few clips of a grander conversation that took place in front of the media. Topics would be injuries and turnovers.
Yeah.
Everybody loves B-Flow. The head coach looked exhausted as hell. And, we had Kwesi in, and that was an awesome chat that you had with him, except I think even in that process, I think he at least held back, which, again, he's not here to pour his heart out and show you the draft board here in early January. But the vibe for me is that this draft, that this offseason, it's a mountain to climb. I think they're excited to do it in some ways, but you can feel it, and they know how vital this situation is in terms of the combination of acquiring useful draft talent and finding the money to maintain a few pillars of veteran talent within the organization.
But I also feel, whether it's from the press conference today or side conversations, they're not operating out of desperation. So in other words, it's like there have been staffs all over the place for many, many years who are like desperate to keep their jobs. So therefore they handle free agency and or drafts differently than I believe this group will, where it's like, the desperation would be unto themselves. That's what I mean. The desperation to improve the team is absolutely there, but not being desperate about a perception of their lots in life. Because personally speaking, I don't think either one of those individuals would be in trouble off two years so far. And with 2023, there's a one. What's up, Nacho? The one and the 1A. The one for me is turnovers. The 1A would be the injuries. Because it's even when there weren't injuries, they turned it over at such inopportune times that they were getting behind the metaphorical chains even when they had their full complement of players. And then through the rotation of everybody who would come in and go out and get hurt and get healthy, the turnovers were the absolute common thread through the season and just foiled so many dreams. Ben Lieber, Nacho Lieber, Twin Cities Live. He'll join us from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center in the TCO radio studio when 9 to noon continues on KFAN.